It's so lovely to be with you here today and walking into this energy. It's amazing. Over the last few days, we have been talking about constellations, the relationships, strategies, and shared commitments that help us build power together. And that matters because y'all know this is not a small moment at all. Our communities are facing real harm. We are facing real harm, from immigrant enforcement and attacks on trans communities to the ongoing crisis of murdered and missing Indigenous women, to economic hardship that is shaping families and communities for generations. So the question is not whether the stakes are high. We know that they are. We feel that in our bones. The question is, what will it take to build enough power, enough trust, enough discipline, enough faith, and enough shared strategy to meet this moment and move beyond it? That's what this gathering is about. That's what your work is about every day. Not just connection for its own sake, but connection that can become commitment. Not just about being in this room together at a conference, but deciding what we are willing to build with each other. I'm honored right now, so honored, to welcome Maurice Mitchell. Please, give it up for him. A guide for us, wisdom for us. Maurice is a nationally recognized movement strategist. He's a community organizer and leader in the movement for Black lives. He began organizing as a teenager, helped build movement infrastructure in Ferguson, and now serves as the national director of the Working Families Party, where he is helping to build a political home for all of us, for multiracial working class movement. Please join me in welcoming our friend, our leader, Maurice Mitchell.
Good morning, Washington. Good morning, Washington. Yo, I did not get on that plane in Queens, in JFK, to fly across this continent, to come here to say good morning and not hear a most rousing, powerful, connected good morning. So we're gonna try that again. Good morning, Washington. All right. Okay. And just, I wanna get a few things up front, just out of the way. Number one, I know you could tell by looking at me, but I am Black, right? Why that's important is that we as Black people, we have this diaspora and we have this culture all around the world. And one of the fundamental pieces of cultural knowledge is this thing that we call and response, right? In some cultures, it's rude. In our culture, it lets us know that the spirit is in the building. So if I say something and you feel something, it's okay to use your voice to let us know you feel something. Is that all right? All right, welcome to the Black church. All right. Number two, sometimes people have questions. Sometimes people have feedback. And I can't talk to each one of you directly, although I would love to afterwards. So I'm just gonna let you know right now, you could find me on all the things. An easy way to find me is, we've made it easy. You could text 30403 and you could write the word Mo, which is my name, and then it'll give you like the thing to link and whatever, and DM me. I slide into my DMs. I love to talk to people individually. I'm very accessible. If you have questions, if you're interested, if you have feedback, I want to hear it. Sound good? All right. Now we can get started. And thank you so much, Jalen. Give it up for Jalen. Give it up for Greg. Give it up for all the staff. So my name is Maurice Mitchell. I'm the National Director of the Working Families Party. True honor to be with you. And you know, I want to acknowledge some individuals that I've known for years on the staff. my sister Carmen Berkeley, Stephen, who was just up here, Nicole June Marr, who does amazing work building this foundation, and all of the staff. And I know there are many here who, for good reason, feel fearful, feel anxiety, feel overcome with concern. I, for one, I wake up most days with hope. I'm hopeful because we still gather in rooms like this one. I'm grateful even for the tears when they do well up, and they well up, because they inform me that I may have not grown numb despite the best efforts of the billionaires building machines to replace us, that my humanity is still intact. Does that make sense? I am hopeful because I believe there is no better time to build power than now. Because I believe the window is open for generational change, for a historic realignment. Now, victory is by no means guaranteed. Another world is possible, yes, but a better world is not inevitable. We bend the hands of history towards us only through hard work, determination, sacrifice, vision, and a little courage. I'll talk more about that later, but first, I want to share my story and how I've arrived at hope amidst the crisis of the world. Can I do that? Is that all right? Okay, so I grew up on Long Island in New York. When most people think of Long Island, in their imagination, they picture it as a monolithic white middle-class suburb. But as you all know, because so many counties in Washington can be described like Long Island by outsiders that don't know, our people are everywhere. Am I right? And because our people are everywhere, our communities are more complex and more diverse than people think. The county I grew up in, once a working class, historically Democratic, sort of blue place, has become solidly sort of Trumpy and Republican, all the while maintaining that diversity. So our people are still there, but the political context is different. Anybody grow up or live in or are in a county like that right now? Okay, so you feel me. Now, Long Island is home to large communities of immigrants, of black folks, of other people of color, of working class folks, of poor folks, and families just like mine. I am the son of immigrants who were able to provide for 4 children against the backdrop of Reaganomics and the drug wars, thanks to good union jobs, right? My mother was a nurse, my dad an electrician, and I've been a community and political organizer for more, yeah, props to electricians. I've been a community and political organizer for more than 2 decades. I became a campus organizer at Howard University in Washington, D.C. You know, there's always a few of us everywhere. And after one of my classmates was murdered, shot and killed by an undercover police officer, many of us organized around that fateful murder. Later, I worked as a grassroots community organizer, building bridges across diverse communities. It was through that work that I've become a believer in the power of coalitions, even when factions of that coalition have vehement but principled disagreements on certain issues or come to the same conclusion for different reasons altogether. One of the earliest campaigns I worked on was organizing people to block the $500 million construction of a jail in Suffolk County in New York. And this was a true David and Goliath battle. This was in like the early to mid 2000s, before it was cool to be an abolitionist. It was tough waters. In addition to the deep pockets of the prison industrial complex, there was and still is a strong undercurrent in the county and in the country at that time that incarcerated people deserved whatever treatment they got, and that we should do whatever and spend whatever to protect society from them by caging them. Also, and this is true today, law enforcement, in their opinion, was considered unimpeachable. Nevertheless, we sought to take on Goliath with our tiny slingshot of justice, but we needed a little help from our friends. So as we began to put this coalition together, we had our usual coalition partners. And it wasn't easy, but we brought together people who were directly impacted by the system, criminal justice advocates, many progressives of all stripes. But we also found a very unlikely faction that provided a major boost to our coalition: conservatives. Fiscal conservatives, to be clear, they thought spending $500 million on a jail was outrageous. And while I don't think they necessarily disagreed with us on the human rights angle, that's not what brought them to the fight or the table, to be honest. So we differed on why the jail shouldn't exist, but we all agreed it shouldn't exist. And I'm proud to say we were able to put together a majority coalition that engaged in principled struggle in search of a common goal. And we won, by the way. We stopped the construction of that jail. And I share that story because building coalitions is the only way we see power from fascists and put it back in the hands of the people. And we must build everywhere with everyone. And I won't lie to you all. Building takes a lot of time. It's sometimes frustrating. Sometimes it's satisfying. Of the Working Families Party's nearly 30-year existence, we've been in Washington for a short time, organizing mostly in King County, and more recently in Spokane, and occasionally endorsing wonderful candidates elsewhere. And we're at the early stages of building Working Families Party here, and we know we'll eventually need to build a robust, all 39 county presence statewide, taking the lead from people like you in each community from the ground up with no shortcuts. And I am excited about doing that work hand in glove with many of you here. Meeting people here from every part of the state is inspiring because we all must contest for power in every county and every corner of this state. From the quote-unquote safest, bluest counties to those that conventional wisdom would say is ruby red. Because here's what I know for certain. Republicans and Democrats are no longer the majority. Just underneath the surface, behind the partisan and ideological labels and identities, is a party in waiting. There is an anti-system, pissed off, anti-corruption, pro-accountability, anti-AI, anti-oligarch, pro-people majority. There is a super majority of people in this country that feel a restless anxiety about the direction of the nation. Hell, the direction of humanity. And when they reach for politics and politicians and parties for answers, they come up empty. It just causes more anxiety. So yes, that is the political party that most people find themselves in. The restless, the anxious, the spiritually hungry. That's right. Most people are members of the party of the pissed off majority. As working class people, we are all observing the same conditions and saying in unison, what the fuck? Forgive people that have precious Christian ears. But sometimes we have to match the profane conditions out in the world with profane language. Across ideological lines, there is near universal agreement that the economy isn't working. Majorities are against this illegal and outrageous and vicious and unethical and immoral war, and are against billionaires stealing our money in the name of tax cuts. I haven't met a person that isn't against paying $4.50, $5, $6 for a gallon of gas. I haven't met a human being that are not revolted by the Epstein class. I want to note, by the way, that there is not one trans person in the Epstein files. Actually, I misspoke. There is at least one trans person in the Epstein files, and that person gave credible allegations that they were a victim. So I am unconvinced that we are getting outdone on the merits of our ideas, but rather on the depth of our organizing. The fascists have fanned across this state and this country, telling their story of how we got here and how we may get out. They have organization everywhere. We must as well. We must build everywhere. Cede no inch of territory. Yet, We must plant seeds in every inch of territory. When we do, that's right. When we do, I've seen amazing coalitions come together that deliver transformative and durable changes for the people. I want to tell you a story about the city of Philadelphia in 2018. Kendra Brooks, a black woman, a Philly native and community organizer, was elected to city council. She made history as the first third-party candidate in a generation to be elected. I'm proud to say that Kendra is a member of the Working Families Party. But at WFP, we don't win elections solely as an exercise in ego. This isn't team sports. Kendra was able to hold together a coalition of folks across the city, brought together by years of WFP organizing that first began when we helped elect Larry Kasner as the city's district attorney, a multiracial coalition. Even as the lone WFP candidate on the council, Kendra organized her colleagues to pass legislation that enhanced renter protections from evictions during COVID. So impactful was her first tenure that when her term was up, not only was she reelected with a higher margin than her first run, Nicholas O'Rourke, another independent WFP candidate, was elected alongside of her. During his first term, Nick also got legislation passed to prevent algorithmic rental pricing, basically using AI to artificially raise our rents. Kendra recently collaborated with another council member to get a package of bills limiting ICE operation in the city, the strongest in the nation. That's governing power. That's a real material impact on people's lives in the nation's ninth largest city. And though we don't win elections to brag, although I love bragging, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Philly is still a two-party city, but it's the Democrats and the Working Families Party. I talk about Kendra and Nick often, not solely because it's a source of pride for us and me at the Working Families Party, but to illustrate what is possible when people come together to fight for what they deserve. I was on the ground of Kendra and Nick's campaign in its final days, helping get out the vote. There were a number of people in that Working Families coalition. Some were progressives who were with us on 99% of the issues. Others were willing to vote for them because they wanted Republicans off the city council. And some others were willing to vote for them because they were tired of the two-party system in general. And some people struggled around safe injection sites because Nick and Kendra were strong advocates for that. And we were able to bring people together into the fold regardless. And that was a tense issue, so much so that a bad faith organizing campaign from the billionaire class based on that issue became a real threat to both campaigns, but we were able to organize people around broad shared interests like housing and affordability. So even if we were arguing about safe injection sites, we were clear about who the advocates for affordability were. Does that make sense? See, organizing and insisting our coalition stay together is our only way out of the conditions that we're in. Does anybody here think the status quo is going well for them? If so, raise a hand, holla. Okay. And I want to be clear. The billionaires know this too. They know that the only way out of this is together. And I'm gonna give the receipts. We know they hate each other and are somehow still in solidarity, right? Do you remember the inauguration? Remember the inauguration and the top 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 richest people on the planet stood behind Donald Trump? When we know low-key they hate him, and he hates them, and they hate each other? You know what another word for that is? Class solidarity. Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk had a years-long public feud that reached the levels of threats of physical violence in 2023. When Musk challenged Zuckerberg to an MMA-style cage match. Look it up, this really happened. Jeff Bezos and Musk had a 2-decade-long public feud, and yet on January 20th, 2025, all three men sat with each other at Trump's second inauguration. They chose each other and their interest. We must do the same. They insist and insisted on staying together and joining forces to wedge us apart. They do it all the time, by race, by ethnicity, by immigration status, by gender. We cannot take their bait. And it starts today. It starts with the people in this room. 5 minutes, okay. I would say it's likely we agree on like 80 to 90%. Maybe there's someone you have a legitimate beef with in this room. Is that possible? The beef is legitimate. I don't want to denigrate the nature of the beef. Maybe over the past few days, you met somebody and established some beef. Is that possible? Maybe you have a real and important tactical difference. I'm not saying those differences aren't real. I'm saying stay together anyway, because we need one another. I didn't say always agree or always like each other or kumbaya or we're all the same. I'm saying we're different. I'm saying we often disagree for good reasons. I'm saying I may not like some of y'all, but I'm insisting that we stay together. Who has a cousin they don't like, but they their cousin? Well, we all are movement cousins. I may not like some of y'all, but I'm gonna pull y'all kicking and screaming to justice and liberation. Does that make sense? And we can't stop with this room. As hard as it is to lock in here, the very real challenge comes when we have to expand the coalition and reach out to our neighbors and who may only agree with us half of the time. People here probably agree with each other 80 or 90% of the time. Or like the prison opposition coalition only agree with us on one issue. The truth is that while guys like Elon Musk cause chaos on the national level, every state has its own MAGA-aligned billionaire using culture war wedges like bathrooms and gender-affirming care and immigration, or the erosion of white Christian nationalism to keep us warring with each other instead of fighting the billionaires who are, all of them, on the way of becoming trillionaires. If there is such a thing as enemies to be had, those men, and they almost always are men, fit the bill. So as you all get ready to depart, and so I'm landing the plane, I appreciate you. I want to leave you all with a challenge. Is that okay? Okay, so if you haven't been paying attention, and it's okay because you have to eat or you have to send that text or whatever, pay attention now. I want to leave you all with a challenge. And it's okay if you're moved by any of this, because we brought the black church in the room to make some noise. All right? So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to go home and build a space where people can talk and struggle and even argue while they collaborate to build our collective power. Notice I said while. Right? We're not going to stop and argue. We're going to walk and argue. A space that leans into the power of the working class without flattening people's identities. We often have this binary debate about race or class. I've even been guilty of saying no war but class war. But as you all know, it's race and class and gender identity and immigration and all of the things that make us us. Your mission is to start seeing the people around you for who they are, even when who they are isn't in perfect alignment with who we are. Does that make sense? Your mission is to find the commonalities in the same way those billionaires did after literally threatening to fight each other. Your mission is to get so sophisticated in your power building that you could sit in a room with someone you don't like and not abandon the room or the movement. Your mission is to lower the bar of entry for participation because the people we need to win over may not be exactly where we want them to be. They might say some wild, outrageous shit that offends us. But your mission is to remember that every person that may say some stupid ass shit is not your enemy. Your enemy is the profane culture and systems and the billionaires and oligarchs that hold them up, that produce the offense in the first place. A low bar for participation gives us more opportunity to see each other, to struggle together, and build real relationships. And weak solidarity at the mediocre level of like the nonprofit coalition is not gonna cut it against committed and resourced anti-human oligarchs. We need to aspire to create the conditions to foster communal love. Not sentimental love, but love in action. Another way of describing that communal love in action is governing together. Your mission is to build governing power with one another. Let me repeat that, governing power. That means that you have to want to govern. You have to move from simply fighting the power to wanting to become the power. To be honest, that's why I came here in the first place to Washington State, because Democrats can no longer get participation prizes. You have trifecta governing power in Washington State. You must use it. If you have governing power under fascism, use it. You all are especially on the front lines when the federal government has been commandeered by lunatics. Washington State, come to the front. They showed us the destructive potential of governing power. We see it every day with ICE raids. We know what that looks like. I'm calling on you, I'm begging you here, show us the creative potential of governing power. Does that mission sound doable? Does that sound possible? I'm not gonna lie to y'all, it will not be easy. But would it help if I just gave you a little cheat code? Okay, I'm wrapping it up. Listen, have you ever been to the black church? We can learn a lot of lessons from past struggles. For example, the movement for Black Lives and civil rights movements demonstrated that solidarity is a choice, and it often is not easy. Solidarity sometimes, sadly, means choosing people who don't always choose us. If my solidarity is based on principle and truly unconditional, your humanity is enough. I don't even need you to be for me to want your children to go to sleep with full tummies, or for you to have health care, or for you to not die at the hand of a police officer, or not die of a preventable disease because you don't have money. The extrajudicial killing of citizens hurts everyone, yet it disproportionately impacts black men. But black women and black queer folks are often on the front lines of that fight and are also on the receiving end of intercommunal violence disproportionately from black men. That doesn't change the structural analysis that we have to be in the fight with each other, but it does sometimes make it hard. Does that make sense? So it begs the question, how do you remain in solidarity across differences with people who are, in this case, sometimes committing violence against you? Or in other cases, deeply offensive or constantly tripping over blind spots. How do black folks fight for a country that hurts us? Well, we choose not to be cast in the story of trauma. Instead, we choose our testimony of triumph. This is why we again and again throughout history are seen dragging this country, kicking and screaming towards justice, from slavery to Jim Crow to civil rights to mass incarceration to the movement for Black Lives and beyond. How do you fight for the promise of a country that time and time again has caused you so much pain? These are hard, strategic questions and necessary choices. Why do I, a cisgendered straight man, fight for the right for trans children to live and thrive? If I'm to be honest, I don't know what it's like to be born in a body that my spirit doesn't feel at home in. Nor do I ever need to know or understand. Because it turns out, when I flip my kid policy over and I read the fine writing, and I actually look at the fine print, it turns out that my kid policy covers all children. And it doesn't need amending. And it turns out that trans children and their families and their parents and trans people owe me no explanation, no education. I could die ignorant of their plight and still choose to fight for their dignity. Because their humanity is actually enough. In your work, this may look like putting up with, if you're a person of color, maybe like the white leftist know-it-all who wants to burn the house down even though your people are locked in the basement of that damn house. It might look like being a rural person and having to deal with like somebody who's like went to like Barnard and then moved to the city and thinks that they got it all because they could quote Foucault, and you could quote Foucault too, but you also know how to actually produce food from the land. It might look like, I don't know, you're a woman and you're dealing with a man that seems to want to get credit for the strategy that you develop. It might look for a lot of things. Anybody felt triggered by any of that? We make these complicated or often tough choices in service of our collective freedom to work in coalition with people who frustrate us, who anger us, who even hurt us. Why do we do that? It's not out of charity for them, but out of the duty to building a bigger we and building liberation for our people. So we don't do it by pretending. Strong solidarity means we call each other in and we call each other out, and sometimes we argue, but always maintaining that North Star collective liberation. Low bar of entry, high standard of conduct. Low bar of entry, high standard of conduct. By show of hands, how many of you have felt betrayed or traumatized by this movement, by an organization, by a leader? How many? By a political party? Keep your hands up if you have had a heated interpersonal concept with someone in the movement. I see a lot of hands. You can put your hands down. I have felt that trauma as well. The way you heal that trauma is not by walking away, but finding something worth fighting for and recruiting some people worth fighting with and going out and getting it together. I want to share with you something that I and the WFP think is worth fighting for, our Working Families Guarantee. If any of this resonates, I want you to make some noise. This isn't a series of policies, it's a statement of values. So if you believe that everyone should have a home they could afford, I need to hear you. If you believe that everybody should have health care they can rely on, I need to hear you. A good job to support their family, child care when and where they need it, and making what's already the law of the land here, the norm in the nation, 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. I need to hear you. Oh yeah, you can get on your feet too if you feel it. You can stop if you feel it. I've got news for you. Our polling suggests that you're already part of the majority. Most people across race and region want that too. But there's some corporate lobbies and AI and crypto and APAC and the Fraternal Order of Police and the real estate lobby in our way. But we're gonna move them out the way. So like I said, you got a mandate in a place that they call a blue state, not simply to call out the fascists, but govern like you mean it and show the world what communal love looks like when it is unapologetic. You already have the mindset to change your counties and the state. And when, if not, because you all said you were up for the challenge, when you go out and organize in every corner of the state, you will bring together your county and then your region and then the entire state of Washington. When we do that, we take the fight to the billionaires instead of waiting for them to bring the fight to us. Cede no inch of ground. Plant seeds in every inch of ground. Claim no easy victories. Do the hard work with no shortcuts at a time of crisis when we as humanity are in a fork in the road. If you feel me, I need to hear it. You can clap, you can holler. If you want to stand up. If you want to stomp. I need to know the spirit is in the building. The spirit of our ancestors, the spirit of future generations. Because we are facing one path, a dystopian future, a dark enlightenment, anti-human, disconnected, dark. On the other side, we choose each other. We build a path where we harness the power and capacity of the richest country in the history of the world and pour love into our communities, into our babies, into human potential to achieve the full promise of beloved community. This is the mandate if we choose it. Don't believe the lie. that the fever dreams of the oligarchs are an inevitability. The people united have never been defeated. So I don't know about you, but I'm putting my smart money on the people over the machines. What say you, Constellations? And that, Constellations, is how we get free. Thank you.